Advanced Handler Responsibilities. Once you're fully trained and independent as a handler, you may be trained to do more than just daycare. These things include cleaning, feeding, valet, front desk, boarding, and running dogs. The following training topics are vital for the role of a senior handler and boarding person. Now, it's important to remember that as a senior handler, you're still a handler, and a certain portion of every shift includes some time handling dogs in daycare, just as you did as an entry-level handler. Handling dogs is your primary position, and what you learned as an entry-level handler is the foundational training for your portion as an advanced handler. In other words, what you learned previously is still part of your job description. You will, however, also take on other new job duties. Those duties are outlined in this training material. You will also be introduced to introductory business concepts in this level of training in order to give you a solid foundation for leadership in business. In addition to the advanced training you will receive in this part of your training, it will also be a good idea to go back to your basic handler training to refresh your memory on your earlier training. Because you have now experienced the realities of daycare for some time, you will have a much better appreciation for what you learned and how it applies to handling in reality. So, get ready to build your skill set. It's time to begin your advanced handler training. Cleaning. As you can imagine, cleaning is vitally important in any animal facility. You'll learn about cleaning in your junior handler training, but as a senior handler, you will be cleaning much more extensively than entry-level handlers. While it's important to remember the concepts you learned in basic cleaning, deep cleaning requires a different level of detail. The cleaning checklist. With all the many responsibilities of keeping this facility clean, you will need to rely on your cleaning checklist. Having a checklist allows you to be able to remember everything needed to keep the facility clean and sanitary. After the completion of each checklist, your work will be signed off by a supervisor based on daily responsibilities. Now keep in mind that some cleaning tasks are time sensitive, so it's important that you avoid checking off your cleaning tasks at the end of your shift. Rather, check off tasks as you complete them. Chemicals. The chemicals used in this facility are designated for specific cleaning purposes. Each chemical has a standard protocol for its use. Be sure that you follow the directions for each chemical as posted, and make sure you never mix chemicals of any sort. Maintaining lobby cleanness. When you're working up front, either helping run dogs around the facility or at the front desk checking customers in or out, keep an eye on the front lobby to make sure it looks clean and presentable. If you see hair on the rugs, vacuum as soon as you have a chance. Additionally, keep the front desk clean and clear of clutter at all times. Always keep a clean mop bucket, mud mitts, and disinfectant readily available near the front in case a dog has a, accident. Cleaning the yard. When you're assigned to do a full cleaning of the yard, without the dogs present, you will need to spend time to get the entire yard sanitized. The yard will be scheduled for 2 full cleanings per day. First, pick up any remaining poop that previous handlers may have missed. Take out the trash, but before doing so, let your team know not to bring dogs outside while the gate is not secure, and secure the gate immediately. Make sure the gates around the dumpster are always fully closed and secure as well, and pick up any trash around that area. Rake the blades of the turf upright against the grain and use warm water mixed with the appropriate solution/water mix, spraying against the grain of the turf so that the solution flows through the drainage holes and breaks down any biological materials. Clean up any hair building up on the grass or in the way of drainage paths. Winter yard cleaning, November through March. During the winter, cleaning the yard is very difficult and you must be conscious of the buildup of ice. Make sure to remove the hose and take it inside every time it's used. It should not be left outside between cleaning. Turn water off at indoor valve and allow the outdoor faucet to remain open so that no water sits in the faucet. This prevents freezing and cracking of the faucet. When there are snowy or icy conditions, clean up poop right away and do the best you can to clean the snow up without damaging the turf. As soon as the temperature rises above freezing, the yard will need a full-blown sanitation and cleaning that may require multiple people to be involved. So make sure you communicate the yard's condition with managers during these times so that additional resources can be put towards cleaning the yard if needed. Cleaning toys. Cleaning toys should be completed twice daily with the same disinfectant that we clean floors with. Do not soak toys overnight because that will break down the rubber material and make them easier for dogs to destroy. Wash with a little bit of disinfectant and then immediately rinse off the toys with clean water and allow them to air dry. Stock for the next shift. Each playroom will have a list of supplies that every shift needs. Before you leave your shift, stock everything that each room needs. If it's dirty, clean it. Use common sense. If something is dirty, just clean it. If you need to ask a manager, that's fine, but it's most likely okay that you clean something if all other priorities are completed. However, you may never leave dogs that you're responsible for alone. Ask if you're unsure. If you don't know how to do something or it's taking longer than your fellow employees are expecting, ask someone for help. They may have techniques that could help you to be more efficient. Cleaning during an illness outbreak. Whenever there is an outbreak of any kind of illness at the facility, managers will advise the addition of bleach into the routine of our cleaning procedures. Playrooms will be cleaned with bleach in addition to disinfecting cleaning. Add a bit of bleach to cleaning of bowls. Add a bit of bleach to cleaning of toys. Add bleach to mop head laundry. Feeding. Prep work. Meals are prepared before mealtime, typically by the supervisor. Although senior handlers do not typically make meals, if you're responsible for assisting with making meals, you will be working off of a meal list made by a supervisor. Always look in meal bins for daycare dogs' food that may not be on your list, and scan through daily notes for dogs whose food is stored at the facility. These may be daily notes or notes that are on the dog's file at all times. Treat food additives policies. Never add anything to a dog's food that is not provided by the owner to get them to be more interested in eating or for any other reason. If the owner provides treats, you can break some up and put them in each meal. Remember, like humans, dogs can have allergies, and they could have severe reactions to things you add to their food, including peanut butter. To be cautious, do not add anything to their food. Proper handling of a group of dogs during feeding. Always feed daycare dogs before boarding dogs because they are more likely to leave in the middle of feeding, whereas boarding dogs will probably be there for a while. Assume all dogs are food aggressive, even if you know they are not. Dogs that are okay with it will be fed in crates, but make sure you don't put dogs in crates who aren't comfortable in crates. You may test the dog to see if she will eat in a crate. If not, feed the dog somewhere else, but completely alone and away from other dogs. Never introduce food to an area where there are multiple dogs until each dog is securely separated. When dogs in crates are finished eating, do not let more than one dog out of their crates at the same time. In other words, if there is food in the room, even if it's inaccessible or crumbs of leftovers, there should never, ever be more than one dog running loose in the room that you're feeding in at the same time. Dogs can fight through crates, and if there is more than one loose dog, there is a much higher probability for an aggressive act. This is very serious and must be learned by all employees, and for this, we will have to take corrective action, including retaining and lost shifts if more than one dog is loose while food is present or appears to be present. Remember, owners are watching the cameras too, so there is an element of real safety as well as perceived safety that needs to be considered in these situations. Feeding of giant breeds. All Great Danes and other giant breeds are to be removed from daycare 1 hour before and after every meal for their safety and to avoid the possibility of bloat. What is bloat? Bloat is a deadly condition that occurs when a dog eats too much food, too fast, and ends up getting a swollen or rotated stomach. It can also result from stress or high activity combined with a full stomach. This is something that can kill a dog within hours. This is very serious and we can prevent it. If the dog's stomach is hard and enlarged, the dog must immediately go to an emergency vet for surgery. In addition, it's important that we secure all food storage areas. A motivated dog will try to steal food. Also, if a dog eats too fast, do whatever you must to slow them down, especially if the owner requests this. Excessive fast eating, especially when the dog is or will be active, can easily cause bloat. Slow the dog down and keep him out of the daycare for a while once he's finished eating. Do not leave dogs unattended in crates or otherwise while feeding or during pre- or post-meal downtime. You do not want to be the reason for a dog needing emergency surgery or worse. It's preventable in most cases, so make sure you follow directions as closely as possible. Assisting handlers. Covering breaks. As a senior handler, covering breaks is part of your responsibility whenever a handler needs to or is required to go on a break. As you get further into training, you will start to realize that there are many balls to juggle, all during any given shift, and one of those things is covering breaks. When you take over a playroom, it's just like any other handler-to-handler transition. Make sure that the dogs are under control while two people are in the room and before the other handler leaves. When you are covering the break, check for any supplies that are running low, and when the handler comes back from break, get him or her anything needed. With pack transitions. Handlers should never move a pack of dogs without the assistance of a senior handler. Moving dogs requires one person in the initial location and one person in the new location. Dogs are very excited during these times, so it's extremely important that more than one handler is present. It makes it very difficult to watch a pack of dogs when you have to be in two places at one time. If you do not help out during a transition, then it sets us up for injuries and a loss of pack control. It is fundamental to this business that we maintain control of the dogs in our care while providing them with all of the necessary services that we promised our customers, such as taking the dogs outside and giving them necessary breaks. Outside. When a handler is taking their group of dogs outside, this is also a time when a senior handler needs to be present, not just during the transition, but all the while outside. It is very important for the training of the dog that they understand that it is required for them to behave a certain way when they're outside. Going outside needs to be the time when they go to the bathroom, and that's about it. We do not want dogs outside going crazy barking and bothering our neighbors. If one handler starts allowing dogs outside to bark and go crazy, play, etc., then it will be very difficult for another handler in another shift to be able to control the dogs outside. Like anything that we do in this doggy daycare, it's important that we think about what an owner would allow their dog to do outside. Many owners have neighbors and would prefer that their dog not bark and go crazy while outside. We want to help the dogs maintain good manners so that they can take them home with them. Limiting activity outside also helps the dogs to focus on the reason that they're outside, which is to relieve themselves. We want to be a positive influence on dogs by helping in building consistency that their owners can appreciate. Remember, we are here to make customers' lives easier, not harder. Always consider what a reasonable person would allow his or her dog to do when they're home, and keep up with those standards in doggy care. Covering if a handler is late or misses a shift. When a handler is late or misses a shift, the senior handler will have to cover the playroom. Just because you're scheduled as a senior handler does not mean that your job duties will not change depending on the circumstances of the day. You should expect things like this to happen from time to time. Again, it's the operations supervisor's responsibility to make sure that anything that you would have been responsible for gets completed if you need to be moved to daycare. It's busy today. Occasionally, daycare will be busier than expected. In those cases, the supervisor managing a shift may decide that the ratios in daycare are not acceptable and you will be sent to daycare to work with a dog pack. When you were originally scheduled to be a senior handler, the dogs are the #1 priority. So don't worry if you get placed somewhere where you cannot get your work done. When a supervisor moved you into a different role that you were scheduled for, it becomes their responsibility to get your work done. Sometimes these types of shifts need to happen for multiple reasons. It is natural and normal for flash decisions to move employees or dogs around to occur when it is busier or slower than normal. So please make sure you're cooperating with your team in these kinds of situations. It's slow today. There are also times when we are too slow to need a handler, in which case you may be required to go to daycare or be sent home. This will depend on whatever scheduling situation the supervisor is dealing with, such as how breaks lie and how shifts are staggered. Valet. During a busy rush, you will often be assigned to valet. Valet is a service that we offer which requires you to go outside when an owner shows up in the morning, meeting the owner at their car and take their dog inside. Owners pay when they pick up, not at drop-off, so at drop-off, the owner need not come inside. It's very important that we be conscious of time restraints that they may have and get them off to work as soon as possible. It's important that every single customer gets valet service unless they specifically request that they do not want it. When you go outside to get a customer's dog, it's very important to be conscious of how tight the collar is, as well as keeping a good grasp on the dog. Get the dog inside immediately and into daycare while having a brief conversation with the owner about anything he or she needs that day. It cannot be emphasized enough how important it is to keep a tight grasp on the dogs while they are outside. You are responsible for the safety of that dog once it leaves the owner's control. Do not take your eyes off of that dog. And pay attention if the dog is pulling away from you or seems to you to have any kind of anxiety that would cause it to want to run away. It's okay to ask for assistance if the dog is unruly, but it's best to get the dog into daycare and away from the owner quickly, as often the owner is the source of that anxiety. The less time the dog spends outside, the less likely you will have an issue. Get the dog excited to be at daycare and make sure you make a big deal about the dog so it starts to get excited about coming to daycare. You can also ask the owner if the dog can have a treat if it seems a little scared. Use your judgment. Security of holding areas. It is imperative that you keep all holding doors closed at all times, even if other rooms connected to that area are closed. Also, never have more than one holding room door or gate open at the same time to avoid escapes. By keeping all holding doors closed, you will decrease the probability of an escape occurring. Running dogs. Moving dogs from one place to another is a constant thing. Dogs need to go to their assigned playroom, to the feeding area to get fed, or be sent up front to go home. Dogs are always moving from one place to another, and as a senior handler, you are often the person who's moving them through the facility. Junior handlers in daycare will put a dog into a holding area adjacent to their playroom, but will not leave that playroom to take the dog to the next area that it needs to be. Therefore, it is part of your job to go get any dog you need to bill for any reason. This is called running dog. Front desk. About the front desk. The front desk is typically manned by a manager, supervisor, or boarding person. However, there are times when assistance from the daycare staff is needed. Make sure you remain professional and talk to customers in a friendly way because you're representing our business. Interacting with customers. Interacting with customers can be fun as much as it can be tricky. In general, just treat customers the way that you would want to be treated. Be friendly, always remain calm, always smile, start conversations with customers when possible and appropriate, and make a big deal about every customer's dog. If it makes you feel better, it's always easier to start talking to their dog first. Always ask the owner if their dog can have a treat when checking out, and give the dog and owner a bit of your time and attention, as well as a friendly goodbye or a "we look forward to seeing you soon." Drop off. When a customer comes to drop a dog off, make sure that you keep in mind that at this time, the customer will be in a hurry and their time is valuable. Therefore, you will want to make sure to assist the customer in any way possible to make their day easier. When a customer drops off, individualize the experience and make the conversation friendly, brief, and helpful. Individualize the experience. Know and use the dog's name, and if you don't know the dog's name, be inquisitive, such as, "Hi, who's this we have here?" Introduce yourself as well. Our customers should always have a good impression of any new face they encounter. Be friendly. Smile and greet the dog with excitement. "Hey buddy, ready for daycare? Let's go!" Be brief. When you see that a customer has arrived, immediately drop whatever you're doing and meet them out at their car to get their dog checked in quickly. Do not lollygag or pretend you do not see the customer. Be helpful. Ask casually and swiftly about what the customer needs. Any specific instructions or services today? Bath, nail trim, meals? The customer might forget to tell you that there is something they need from the staff that day, so a quick reminder will be much appreciated. This should be habitual for any employee working drop-off valet. Pickup. Pickup, unlike drop-off, is not about speed, but rather about relationship building. Owners tend to be in much less of a hurry to get where they're going when picking up, compared to a drop-off. Moreover, customers will want to wait for their dog to get to the front anyhow, so it is a perfect opportunity to use that time to build a positive relationship with the owner. Individualize the experience. Know and call the owner by his or her name whenever possible, and call for the dog as soon as the customer comes inside, so he or she can hear you calling for the dog. Say hello, be cheery, and let the owner know their dog is on its way up front. Take payment. Quickly take a look on the computer to see if the customer owes money and let them know how many days they have on their package, if any. Wipe down. Make sure every dog is offered to be wiped down with dry shampoo so that they go home reasonably clean smelling. The most important part of a wipe down is the belly, because the dog may have lied down in something. Spend time. By the time the dog makes its way up to the front, move away from the front desk and join the owner and the dog face to face. Focus on positive interactions, have a conversation, and always ask how the owner's day went. Have fun. Ask the owner if the dog can have a treat and get it to do some tricks. Chat with the dog and owner, love on the dog, laugh with the owner, and have fun. Let the dog and the owner know that you can't wait to see them next time. Managing a rush. People tend to come and go in waves. Rush periods are inevitable and can certainly produce stress and take the wind out of you. In a rush, it's important to remember the key elements you learned about pickup and drop-off, even when things get crazy. The hard part about a rush is that you must complete what's needed with the current guest you're helping while also acknowledging the arrival of additional guests, staying positive and cheery while doing so. Control the rush. Do not let it control you. It's important to remember that customers are humans too. They will recognize a rush also and therefore expect to hang out a little longer. During a rush, you will typically have another employee to assist you with the front of the house duties. Split tasks as needed. At drop-off, one person is checking dogs in while the other is greeting the customers as they enter the lobby. At pickup, one person is running, leashing dogs, wiping dogs down, and doing treat time while the other person is checking customers out. If you had to handle a rush on your own, do the best you can and be positive. Remember, everything will get done eventually, so just work your way through each interaction linearly until everything is caught up and the rush calms down. And if you do have help, when it's all over, take a deep breath and take 5 or 10 minutes to calm down and refuel. When a customer's dog is hurt or sick. When breaking the news to a customer that their dog is hurt or sick, it's never very comfortable. Although typically it will be the person in charge handling these situations, there will be times when you will need to speak with them about what happened, or some cases where the injury is noticed at checkout. If the injury or incident was known ahead of time, the owner would have been called and alerted as to what happened. During these situations, stay calm and compassionate. Make sure you do not overreact, or the customer will also tend to overreact. Think the situation through and let a manager or supervisor know about the injury right away. Make sure you take actions to take care of or clean up the dog in any way you can. Don't make up stories, guess, or try to explain what may have happened. Owners often perceive such stories as misinformation, especially if someone else tells a different, even truer story later or prior, which makes it appear that we have something to hide. Do not ever give medical advice, but with any injury, make sure you suggest veterinary care at the owner's discretion. If an owner asks if they should take their pet to the vet, never say no. You do not want to be responsible for recommending no care when the dog actually needs it. Make sure you tell the customer that it is completely their decision, but it might be a good idea to let the vet decide. Starting antibiotics when a dog has an open wound is a common remedy used to prevent infections. If the wound is deep, it probably will need stitches or staples. Encourage the owner to seek out a veterinarian's opinion. Additionally, make sure you get a supervisor or ideally a manager involved in a conversation about an illness or injury. Managers are highly trained on handling these kinds of situations, and these conversations can not only be very sensitive, but they can also create confusion and impressions of the business itself, so be careful not to say anything that you are not sure about, or that you're not sure is an appropriate thing to say. Know how to properly take a phone call. When you take a phone call, you set the tone for new and existing owners alike. Be friendly, helpful, and energetic. Say the name of the business and your name. Do not ever rush the customer. If you are in a rush and find that you have more than one thing going on at a time, do not reveal this to the customer on the phone. If you absolutely have to put someone on hold, don't tell them you're going to put them on hold. Rather, ask them for their permission to do so and wait for their response before you put them on hold. Thank them for being patient and always be polite. Have fun and laugh with the customers on the phone, the same as you would in person. Listen to their stories and do your best to answer all of their questions and meet all of their needs. If a situation seems sticky or a customer is upset, let them talk to a manager or supervisor. Managers and supervisors are trained to deal with crucial conversations. If a supervisor or manager is not available, take down their information and have a manager call them right away. Remain calm and do not ever argue with customers. Remember that there's a reason they are feeling the way that they do, even though it may seem unreasonable to you. Understand protocol for dogs to be at the front desk. The front desk is for approved dogs only, and typically older dogs who do not prefer daycare. The front desk must be controlled at all times. Dogs should not be allowed to bark, be aggressive towards customers, or misbehave in any other way. The front desk is meant to be calm and is for well-behaved dogs only. Escape artists. It is very important that dogs are never loose in the lobby, and holding doors should be closed at all times. Dogs can easily escape outside when the door is open. Any dog who attempts to escape the front desk will be banned from staying up front. Prey drive. It is vitally important when trying a dog out at the front desk that managers have approved the dog for the front desk. From time to time, smaller dogs will be brought up front to hang out. Therefore, dogs with any ounce of prey drive are never allowed at the front desk. Do not bring dogs to the front desk unless their file explicitly states that the dog is approved, or a manager approves the dog to be up front. You cannot bring any dog you choose up front, no matter how much you want to hang out. This goes for your own dogs as well. You'll need to ask a manager to approve your dog for the front desk area before it can stay up front. Answer questions about the business. You always want to sell services by being excited and happy. You never want to sound rushed or annoyed. Do what you can to answer whatever questions the owner might have, but also provide the information that is going to sell our services that are best for the customer. Take the time to learn everything about the business in detail. Becoming an expert in the details of the services we offer is no easy task, but if you are to be customer-facing, it's vital that you know the business inside and out. Our mission, vision, values, and all of the unique features that make us unique, and the intricacies of the service offerings we provide our customers. The first step is to study our website to understand what makes our service superior. Learn each and every feature and understand how it is different from our competition. Many times owners will not have done the research and they're only trying us out. They may not have realized how our pricing works. During this vital time, it is important that you educate the customer so they truly understand the unparalleled value that they are getting by using our services instead of the services of our competitors. Managers and supervisors are fully trained in customer interaction scenarios, and dealing with customers appropriately comes with experience as well. We will give you introductions to customer service in order to expose you to some of the common things you will start to see as you become more and more customer-facing. That's expensive! When a customer mentions that something is expensive or seems concerned about prices, make sure you explain to the customer why the services are priced the way they are and talk about all the things that make our business worth so much more than some of our competitors. If the customer does understand why the services are worth it, but still seems bummed about prices, and you feel that they may be under some, well, monetary hardship, well, there are some unique billing options that we have available that you can suggest. Tell the customer, I can have the manager call you and discuss some more budget-friendly options if you'd like. I'm sure we would be willing to work something out with you. I forgot my wallet. If customers forget to bring money, tell them they can't have their dog until they pay. No, I'm just kidding. Use your judgment. If it's a regular loyal customer or even a new customer who you're building loyalty with, it's no big deal if they forgot to pay. Just tell them to take care of it next time. Of course, if the owner has a running bill, it may be time to get a manager involved, but always be respectful. If it's a new customer paying for a long boarding stay, you can ask for him to call with a credit card number whenever he arrives at home. The vast majority of our customers is of the repeat nature. If something like this happens, let a manager know, and if the owner forgets to call, the manager can put in a call to collect payment or send the owner a collection letter. However, at the point of sale, you do not need to be harsh with customers about payment. We build our business on trust and loyalty and recognize that 99% of the time, the owners are going to come back and make good on their promise to pay. No dog care requirements. There are several requirements for a dog to be eligible for daycare. You need to memorize these basic requirements. Don't forget to give any new customer all of the requirements if you talk to them about bringing in a new dog. Failing to do so can cause us to lose or annoy a new customer. For example, if they come in for their evaluation with a dog who is not yet eligible, we want to avoid wasting our customers' time, which is very valuable to them, and avoid coming across as incompetent. It's better to involve a trained member of our leadership team. Now, here are the basic requirements for starting services. Dogs must be friendly, as we do not have accommodations for aggressive dogs. Any dog who's not friendly or causes incidents will have to be disqualified from services. Dogs will go through a temperament evaluation to determine if they will be allowed in daycare. Even if approved, the dog may not be able to return to daycare in the event of an incident, depending on the severity. Temperament evaluations must be at least 4 hours long and no longer than 12 hours long. Puppies must be at least 12 weeks old to attend daycare. They must have all vaccines and vaccine boosters. Have customers talk to their vets to make sure their puppy is ready for daycare. Distemper/parvo, Bordella, and rabies are required vaccines. Dogs must be vaccinated and boosted before they can start services and will be unable to schedule services if their vaccines are out of date. Rabies is typically given later than 12 weeks, and that's okay. The influenza vaccine is also highly recommended. Have the customer bring in shot records or let them know that the vet can fax them over as well. Dogs over 6 months of age must be fixed. Some exceptions made for giant breeds. Refer customers to a manager for the decision. Dogs must be healthy and flea-free to use services. If your dog is sick, do not bring it to daycare. We cannot accommodate sick dogs. Dogs must attend 3 successful days of daycare before they will be allowed to stay for boarding over 3 days long. We need to make sure the dog is well adjusted before they stay for a long period of time. This is for the good of the dog and for other dogs in our care. Now, former fighting dogs are not allowed in daycare. Excessive scarring is an indication of a past in fighting, and certain breeds may be turned away with such scars due to high risk. Because of a history of problems with certain breeds, we do have more stringent requirements and banning policies for these breeds. There is an online process for requesting an evaluation. Walk the customer through the process if help is needed. Let them know the process is fairly extensive, but we're always available to help if needed. Ask them to call with any questions or if anything confuses them. If you have time to stay with the customer on the phone or in person, please do so. It is our responsibility to render the best possible customer service that we can. Customers must never be treated like a burden. If you forget what's required or what services we offer, it's all on the website, so you can go to our page and relearn whenever necessary. It's important that if a customer has a question, you do not refer him to the website because you're busy, or if you have not yet memorized the requirements. It's okay to mention that everything is spelled out on the website, but only after giving the customer all of the information they need verbally, in person, or on the phone. If you're not comfortable doing so, try to get an employee with more seniority to talk the owner through this, and then listen to learn from the experience. You can refer the customer to the website and have a manager call the customer back as soon as possible if a senior team member is not available. Covering breaks. Our facility, when open, is always under the responsibility of the supervisor or manager in charge. However, we train our advanced handlers to know enough about the front desk and customer service procedures to take responsibilities in case of an emergency when the supervisor must leave or when they're going on a break. For this reason, you are being introduced to as many of the procedures and policies that you will be more responsible for if you move up with the company to become a supervisor or manager in the future. There is a lot of information to learn in order to run a shift effectively, and these introductory topics will make it easier for you once you're ready to move up. If at any time you feel that you or the dogs up front are in danger, call the police right away. Dealing with upset customers. Occasionally, when you're covering a break, you may need to deal with a customer that is upset. As with anything, remain calm. Depending on the customer, he or she may attack you personally. It's important to remember that a hostile customer is probably just frustrated and taking it out on you. Your best defense for dealing with an upset customer is to remain calm. If you're unable to remain calm or you become too reactive to the customer's irrational behavior, you will simply undermine your goal of solving the problem. Do not attempt to solve the customer's problem unless you know the proper way to do so. Being that you're not management trained for this company yet, you likely will not know or understand our approaches to handling upset customers. You learned a lot about customer types, which was a basis for future training in dealing with a customer based on those qualities. Much of what you learn about dealing with customers will be in later leadership training. What you can do is be honest with a customer about your level of authority and assure him or her that you will make sure someone will be able to speak with him or her. Let him or her know that you're just watching the front desk with the supervisor on break, and you will make sure that you pass on everything when they get back. If absolutely necessary, call your supervisor on break. If that doesn't work for any reason, as an absolute last resort, call your general manager at home. Now make sure you do not make up stories or try to explain something that you do not know the answers to or the circumstances around which something happened to the dog. This might sound obvious, but employees do this all the time, and it's most likely a defense mechanism. When a customer is upset, it's normal for you to want to give some kind of explanation or conjecture to the customer. Don't do this. Stop and think. Be compassionate, but be realistic and honest as well, without giving the customer any kind of uncertain or unnecessary information. Again, this is what managers are trained for, and one of the managers is always on call. Hostile customers. If the customer is becoming hostile, do not argue with the customer. Let the customer know that you are just a handler and offer to call the supervisor on duty on their break, letting the customer know that the supervisor will be back very soon. If the customer is becoming hostile to an extreme level, offer to try to get the general manager on the phone right away. If a hostile customer refuses to pay, do not argue. Just let him or her go with the dog.